one of the great things that's happening to America right now is what's happened to the judicial system. We're getting conservative judges. Now, a lot of your people watching us right now don't agree with that, but I do. And we have judges now that believe in the Constitution. We've got two. And anyway, Kavanaugh was in my office right before I came to Oshkosh, and I said, "I'm really sorry, but I've got to leave because I've got to get to Oshkosh." So I left the nominee to be on the United States Supreme Court to be here with you guys.
Well, we're very appreciative of that. But how did you get here, by airline, or did you go get here to your airplane?
No, I have to come from Washington, so I come from Maryland. Then
I'm sorry about that.
My son flew up, and I'll be flying back.
In 340?
With ours. No, not my 340. But probably, I think he brought up our RV8.
Good.
So we can fly back upside down then.
That's right.
All right.
So let's talk a little about what's been going on. And, first off, with your leadership in the Senate, us aviators feel really well protected. And then the results that we've gotten over the last couple of years, from everything from basic med, pilot's bill of rights, not having a privatized air traffic control system. Pretty darn good.
Let me tell you though, don't sell yourself short. Those are all my programs, but what's the first thing I did? I went to you guys, and I got you stick General Aviation on these guys, and you can get results. and honestly, none of that would have happened. A good example, you talk about the privatization issue. One congressman, Bill Schuster, was the chairman of that committee, and in fact, people right now think that's still, he might still win that thing. But first of all, he is retiring. I think there's a good reason he's retiring, because he got pretty unpopular on this issue. And secondly, we have the aviation, the FAA reauthorization bill. Now, the FAA reauthorization bill has to be passed by the end of September. It will be passed. That's when the current one runs out. So what we've done is on the Senate side, in our committee, the Commerce Committee, I put all the general aviation stuff on that bill. So that'll come when that comes. And we put a prohibition on the privatization. Now, when they passed that bill just the other day out of the House, they tried to put that provision back in it, and he didn't have the votes to do that in his own house. So that is dead, gone, done, and you guys are responsible for it, not me. You are the resource I used to get it done.
Well, we did. We worked together really well. The whole aviation community came together.
All of the organizations, you guys, the AOPA, the EAA, all the business aviation organizations. And I'll tell you something kind of funny. I always never remember the guy's name, but it's one of the top Trump people. The first week that he came into office, they had me for a lunch in the White House, and it was to explain to them, why they're going to privatize. And I said, I know you believe that, but you're not going to. He said, oh yeah, we haven't done this. Some bureaucrat, someone from Wall Street. And he said, no, we can't do it. And so we won, they lost.
Yeah, that's right. And now it's time to move on to the things that really matter.
And by the way, let me also say, one of the big things that we did on the third class medical, that's been something that you guys in the general aviation community has been talking about for a long period of time. And yes, we put it in there. But again, that's another one. Without general aviation, we did not have the votes to pass it. And it worked so well because all I had to tell you was what states we need help in. I don't know how you did it, but you'd send out something that they'd be inundated from.
We did cause a little ruckus with some of our friends to say, pay attention to this issue because it's important.
That's right.
Today, because of that bill, we got over 38,000 people in the last 13 months using basic med. They weren't flying maybe before, got back into it, doing it safely.
They are
a wonderful result.
I'll tell you better statistics than that. In the last 12 months, after that's come in, we've increased the number of pilots by 25,000. Now, you talk about revitalize. One of the things I'm so proud of you guys for is what you're trying to do to revitalize the aviation industry and the interest in it. And what we have on this bill that you and I are going to be talking about, that is going to become law because it's going to be attached to the FAA reauthorization bill by the end of September, is something that will allow classrooms to use, actually in classrooms, getting young people who are making career decisions and making their decisions on what they want to do. They're actually getting this done, and we're going to make it possible to have a ground school taught in high school. You know, once they're exposed to what aviation is, and that's what been one of your main things that you've been trying to do and doing successfully, but this is going to be a huge help. We have a provision that is going to provide for classrooms to actually teach.
You know, I was one of those kids in the 70s, and I took my ground school in high school.
Oh, you did?
I
didn't
did.
know they ever had that.
Yeah, they did, and by the way, it changed my life. You know, I started thinking about aviation as something I wanted to do.
Yeah, Mark,
in high
that's
school,
good.
I got my ground school done. I took it again, by the way, for 5 credits at the University of Minnesota, but I already had it done, so it was helpful. But we feel really strongly about allowing young people in high school from the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade curriculum that we're building out now. Got over 80 high schools doing it this year.
Sure.
The support that we could use to get this out in many more high schools, so people get their ground school, get an aviation education, whether they want to be a pilot, a controller, a mechanic, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's important for people to understand. It's not just pilots. It can be anything else, and primarily mechanics, because they you know, we're the home office of Spartan. And Spartan, a lot of people don't know this, they trained most of the people for World War II in the Brits. And they come back, the ones that are still alive, and to Spartan all the time. In fact, I've been honored to give commencement talks there. And so we are really big in that, but they'll tell you they're really busy trying to crank out people and particularly with the expanding industry that's happening right now, a lot of it due to the provisions we're talking about, including the pilots, all the provisions, the Pilots' Bill of Rights 1 and 2, they're a reality.
That's right, and that's what we want to do, is advocate for the right thing for pilots and then growing the population. What do you think about this SARA part of this bill?
Well, that's the new part that I really enjoy. We're really talking about that now because we have the Pilots' Bill of Rights 1, and I was thinking about during our 10 o'clock thing going into why we did the Pilots' Bill of Rights 1, and that was because I was one of them that became an abused person down in South Texas when I was accused of landing on a closed runway and all these things, and immediately they jumped on it. There's a cartoon in the Washington Post the next day showing me chasing Mexicans off the runway who are illegals and all this stuff, and so that became a big issue, and that's when I found out what a lot of people are going through and what I'd known they'd gone through, but until you experience it yourself. Here I landed on a runway, there are no NOTAMs, there are no exits on the runway, I was cleared to land by the Valley Approach Control, and yet I could have lost my license. So we started changing it so that you're not guilty till proven innocent. That was on the first bill. The second one, we cleaned up some of the things that didn't work too well. For example, and we'll talk about this during this hearing, is the provision that allows people to participate in something that they really do believe in, and we had 4 provisions, actually 5, but 4 that I've been talking about in the SARA Act. Now that's going to be a part of the Pilots' Bill of Rights 3. That's what we're talking about getting it through. So we have some provisions there, and I've been using these provisions. One is, I had an experience that you might enjoy. I didn't know this was going to happen, but I've been a flight instructor for many decades, but every 2 years, a flight instructor has to take a update, a renewal. And so I came back last month in June to get it done, and I couldn't find a DPE to give it to me, and that's the designated pilot examiner. And so we have I didn't realize a shortage until it affected me. I barely at the last minute found one who was willing to cancel other people, and I found out that they have sometimes waiting lines of 1 and 2 months to get a check ride, or longer. And so we addressed that in 2 ways, and you'll appreciate this, and this is going to become law. First of all, we allow them, an examiner right now cannot do examinations outside of his geographic area. If it's from Oklahoma, he can't go up to Wichita and give one. We're changing that. So once you're an examiner qualified to do it, you can do it anywhere you want. The second thing is they have a requirement you can't give more than 2 check rides in a day. Well, those of us, and you, and everybody knows, you could double that very easily. So that we are allowing that, we're taking off the limitation of 2 check rides. Those 2 things alone, Mark, are going to change this system.
That's terrific.
And that's just one element of the Sarah bill.
For sure, we're down to issuing about 17,000 private pilot's licenses a year now, from 30,000 in 1980. They don't have the staff at the current levels. We need to be thinking about 25 and 30,000 private pilot's licenses a year on top of all the additional ratings.
Yeah.
So they're understaffed and ill-prepared. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, that's important. Then what we've done, the youth part, that's a part of this bill. The other one is, we all remember when the FAA came along and said to the EAA and to us here that you have to pay $600,000 for the use of the FAA during this event. And we were able to escape that, but that was a temporary thing. We have that permanent escape is in this bill.
Wonderful.
So, that's what they're supposed to be doing for a living. And these guys that come in and do extra duty, these FAA people, they love it. I've talked to them. It's a challenge for them. People can appreciate them, and so that's part of the bill. And the last thing I've been talking about is this Volunteer Pilot Protection Act. That was difficult to get passed because, and I have nothing against trial lawyers, but trial lawyers are opposed to this type of thing. And quite frankly, the Democratic Party generally is more influenced by trial lawyers than others are. So we have that as a major part of it. And another part of this bill that I think a lot of your people are concerned about, having to do with pilots landing on lakes, because they are subject to some of the same restrictions that boats are. And what we're doing with this is exempting
the invasive species of pilots really want to take care of the lakes that they're landing in. I'm happen to be a float plane pilot, fly all over the place, and we want to make sure our floats aren't contaminating the lakes. But it's impossible for us to go to an inspection station on the road.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. No, I'm a float pilot too, and instructor. But this is the problem that they have, and I'll make sure that people know it, because a lot of times they don't realize. I talked to someone just this morning who was saying someone's going to have to do something about that. I said, we've already done it, but they didn't know it. So it takes forums like this for you and me to kind of explain to the general pilot. All of them have jobs, they have a lot to do, and they don't catch on to the new
We're working for them both, you in the House and the Senate, and working with us that represent those pilots. We're getting things done. I really like that.
Look, all 4 of these things we talked about are a result of the influence that we can bring into. All I have to do with you guys, and I think everyone should know this, when I have one of my aviation bills on, I don't have the votes. Say there might be a vote that we need in Florida, call you guys up, and all of a sudden these 2 senators from Florida are inundated with,
It works. That's what we're thankful for.
Yeah, it's supposed to work that way.
That's
This
right.
is America.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Inhofe.
You're very welcome.
We really appreciate you as an aviator and as a senator. Thanks very much.
And a friend. How about that?
A lot.
Okay,
Thanks,
good.
Al.